Ready? Get set. Play.
There's just something about classical arcade games. It pulls us in with its simple to learn, hard to master gameplay. Easy controls and straight to the fun with no cutscenes or tutorials needed.
Got it. Good for you.
That's why it came to me as such a surprise that so many of our favorites were ported over to the original Game Boy, sometimes ported 2 to 3 times over. So today I wanted to showcase to you almost 20 classical arcade games you can play on your Game Boy and Super Game Boy too. Let's begin.
That's it, John, you did it! Way to go, boy!
Munching dots and eating fruit. Can't get much more Pac-Man than that. It's all here as well as the cutscenes. This card has no extra bells and whistles, which is kind of a bummer, but it does play well and is one to keep your eye on. There's other Pac-Man games on the Game Boy like Pac Attack and Pac in Time, but this is the one to get for that quick Pac-Man fix. I'm not the biggest fan of Dig Dug, but this is a really nice port. You can pump up your enemies until they explode or crush them for big points with a well-timed boulder drop. Best of all, there's a new mode here that has us collecting various keys and getting to the exit. A very nice addition, and this was my actual preferred mode to play in. Dig Dug is another solid arcade conversion to NAB. Here's Mr. Do. It's one of those classic arcade games that not a lot of people talk about these days. It's a mixture of Pac-Man and Dig Dug, and it's a really good time. You guide a clown digging tunnels to find a number of cherries while avoiding all kinds of monsters that are after your hide, and then you race to the exit, and then you do it all over again. It's great. The Game Boy Edition has all this, as well as a few options to mess around with. Pretty much the sound and the map, how the map looks. This is one of the best arcade ports to the Game Boy, and I give it a really high recommendation. I dig Mr. Do. Hopping on squares and changing their colors has never been more fun. Q*bert is a pretty good port even if you can't see the entire playing field. You do get a map feature to keep track of things and a few different options at your fingertips, like changing the control scheme, which is really nice. While this isn't a perfect arcade port of Q*bert, it does breathe a little new life into it with its weird map designs. See, the arcade was just a straight up pyramid. Here, not so much. You get all kinds of crazy shapes and designs. And I think it works. If you're a fan of Q*bert, definitely give this one a go. Again, no extra bells or whistles here, just like Pac-Man, but we have the basic dot-eating maze game, and it plays very well. It would have been nice to get some different options and modes to choose from, like in the unlicensed NES game. That sucker was killer, but all things considered, like Pac-Man, it's an excellent way to get your fix on the fly, so Ms. Pac-Man is A-OK with me on the Game Boy. I debated hard whether to put Donkey Kong 94 on this list. Yes, all 4 arcade levels are here, so are the bonus items and hammers, but there's fancy new moves that make the first few levels a breeze to get through, and this is more of an action puzzle game instead of a straight up arcade conversion of Donkey Kong. We do get a nice custom arcade border and color palette with the Super Game Boy adapter, as well as some added voice clips too, very nice. This may be a controversial pick since technically this is not so much an arcade port, but a new adventure altogether with the 4 arcade levels included. I don't know, what do you guys think? It's still killer though, very good game. Strictly speaking, if you want to just play a game of Space Invaders with no frills, no extras or anything, this is a fine example of it. However, if you pop this bad boy into a Super Game Boy, it adds color to it with different filters you can pick from that mimics the various arcade cabinets. And I'm told the arcade mode is basically a legit SNES game stuffed in there somewhere, I don't know. However, my emulator was grumpy and I couldn't capture footage of it. So sad. But it is another excellent rendition of Space Invaders. The one on the Game Boy is top notch. Okay, here we go with the Arcade Classics series. The Arcade Classics Volume 1 gives us both Asteroids and Missile Command. Both games are great. In Asteroids we can pick our difficulty as well as control setup, and I love the custom arcade borders, not just these games but the entire series. Missile Command is a little different here. This isn't the Atari 2600 version with a blank or black background. It's a simple addition adding landmarks of the current area, but I think it's a nice touch adding those background features. And the cursor moves at a good pace too. Just for the record, I love Missile Command. It plays incredibly well in the Game Boy, and Volume 1 is definitely one to look out for. Arcade Classics Volume 2 gives us Centipede and Millipede, and tell you the truth, the port of Centipede is not good. It plays sluggish and slow, and our crossbow has momentum like if you're using a trackball or something from the arcade. It's super awkward to control, and even with the variety of modes added in and the 4 difficulty levels, it's still not worth your time. However, Millipede is the complete opposite. It's fast, controls well, and it's incredibly addictive, so addictive. And this version has some really nice Super Game Boy enhancements. This is by far my favorite game out of the entire lot of classic arcade games. I love Millipede. Arcade Classics Volume 3 features both Galaga and Galaxian. These two shooters are pretty good if you like the style of game. However, the color palette they chose for Galaga stinks. It's really hard to not only see your shots, but also your ship. It's one of those rare instances where you should play with one of the other built-in palettes instead. Galaxian is a lot better in this department, but I don't like it nearly as much as Galaga. At least the custom borders are cool. Arcade Classics Volume 4 features Defender and Joust, and to me this is the weakest of the lot. But more because I'm not the biggest fan of how little wiggle room you have in Defender. The viewpoint is cropped too close and it's difficult to not bump into things. Although each game has the most impressive selection of options thus far, to be honest, I couldn't even capture footage for Joust. My emulator again was grumpy, just wouldn't have any of it, which stinks because I love Joust. So if you're into Defender and Joust, pick this one up, but it's not my cup of tea. And the last Arcade Classics features Battlezone and Breakout, and I must say, I was quite surprised by how much time I devoted to both. Battlezone is a wireframe shooter that has us chasing and gunning down rival tanks, and Super Breakout, well, it's a simple brick-breaking game. Now I know the title says Super Breakout, but the actual game ported here is just plain Breakout, and neither game has any extra options, but they're both solid games. Here we go. So Breakout was simple, but Super Breakout, however, has lots of different play options and is way more fun to play in my opinion. Still, if you're looking for the best brick-breaking game, go with Alleyway by Nintendo. It was one of the launch titles back in '89, and it's highly underrated and it's super fun. And lastly, all the way from 1998, is the classic game of Frogger. It plays very well and has tight controls, the action ramps up really quick, and even though it doesn't feature any extras, this was really hard for me to put down. I was playing a ton of Frogger. I really love the original arcade game of Frogger, and the one on Game Boy is an excellent port. Wow, that was a lot of games. If you want my recommendations, well, it all depends on what kind of arcade games you like. For my money, Millipede is the best of the bunch, even though it's packed with the weakest game, Centipede. Asteroids and Missile Command is my next pick, and Mr. Do and Space Invaders are excellent choices too. Really, you can't go wrong with any of them, so pick your favorite and have a nice time. Let me know down in the comments section below, what are your favorite classic arcade games? I'm Will. For those about the retro, we salute you. Take care.
Oh, that hurt. Yeah.